All right, so today we're doing something a little different. We've actually gotten our hands on the internal curriculum for a kid's self-defense program, and we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how it all works, from the inside out.
You know, it's a question pretty much every parent thinks about at some point. And what's so fascinating about these documents is that the answer they give, well, it's about so much more than just punches and kicks. It's really this carefully designed strategy for building confidence, discipline, and just lifelong awareness.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the core philosophy. Then we'll get into its secret blueprint, what they call the 4 pillars. We'll follow a kid's journey from a total beginner to an advanced student, see how they actually learn through play, look at how they're tested, and then finally, we'll uncover the real goal of this whole system.
All right, let's dive in. First things first. To really get what this program is about, you have to kind of throw out the idea that it's just a fighting class. Because when you look at these documents, you see they have a much, much bigger ambition.
And this is the big idea, right? It's something we see repeated over and over again in their manuals. Every single activity, every drill, it's not just about self-defense. It's designed to build life skills that stick with a kid long after they leave the mat.
So the big question is, how do they actually do that? How do they pull it off? Well, they've built the entire system on this really unique framework. 4 pillars that basically shape every single lesson they teach.
And this table, right here, this is their secret sauce. It shows how they look at every class through these 4 different lenses. So you've got habits acquisition, that's simple stuff like just showing up on time. Then principles of work, which is all about preventative learning. The motor aspect is super interesting. It's them acknowledging that kids have limited cardio. And finally, technical aspects, which is basically about making sure the moves are modified so a little kid can actually do them. Okay, so now that we have that philosophy in our heads, let's see how it all translates into what the kids are actually learning. You know, how they progress through the different levels, from the little ones in the Rangers group all the way up to the advanced Delta group. And the first thing that jumps out is the language they use. Seriously, look at this. These aren't your typical technical martial arts terms. They're using these creative, super memorable names like Dracula's cape or a donkey bite response. And this isn't just to be cute, right? It's a really powerful teaching tool. It makes these complex skills way easier for a kid to remember, especially when they're under pressure. Now, let's look at how this all builds on itself. So over here on the left, you've got the curriculum for the Rangers. That's the youngest group. It's all about fundamentals, things like forward rolls. But then, look at the Delta group on the right. You can totally see the evolution. Now they're learning way more advanced defenses and handling tougher scenarios, like what to do if you're cornered or shoved. It's just a really clear, super structured progression.
So we've seen what they're teaching. But what's maybe even more important, and what the instructor manual really dives into, is how they teach it. The whole methodology is built from the ground up around the way kids actually learn.
Check this out. Every single class, and I mean every class, follows this exact 3-part structure. You start with a warm-up, which is usually a game. Then you have the technical part where they teach the skills. And you finish with a summary, which, guess what, often uses games to lock in what they just learned. That routine is so important because it creates this safe, predictable, and honestly, a really effective way to learn. And this little stat from the instructor manual, it's absolutely crucial. It flat out says that kids have little cardiovascular ability and, no surprise, short attention spans. So what do? They make sure the vast majority of the class time is active, on the move. It's all about learning by doing, not just by listening.
And what about discipline? It's not just random, you know? It's all handled through this system they call the rules of the house. And it's basically this clear step-by-step process. So first defense, you get a warning. Do it again, and the kid is temporarily taken out of the group to stand still for a moment before they can come back. See, it's all structured and predictable, no surprises.
Okay, but what about testing? I mean, how do you even measure progress in a program like this? Well, their exam protocol reveals a philosophy that, honestly, it might surprise you. This is the key. Listen to this quote directly from their exam protocol. Remember, we do not fail children. That's it. No child ever fails. The whole goal isn't to create some high-pressure pass-fail test. It's all about measuring progress and just celebrating what the kid has learned. Even the lowest score is still technically a pass. So the exam itself is a whole event, and parents are actually invited to come and watch. It starts with a warm-up, then moves into showing off the techniques, and then they do some drills with a partner. What's really interesting is they also ask the kids questions about their behavior during the drills.
and the whole day ends with a ceremony where they get patches and diplomas. It's all about reinforcing that feeling of accomplishment. And all of this brings us to our last and I think most important section. We've looked at the philosophy, the curriculum, the way they teach, so what's the end game? What is the ultimate goal of this entire system?
This right here, from the instructor manual, really lays it all out. They split the training based on who the threat is. So, against another kid your age, the focus is all on correct decision-making and trying to avoid the problem in the first place. But if the threat is an adult, the goal changes completely. It becomes all about correct prevention behavior, running away, and doing something to surprise the attacker so you can get away.
And that, right there, is the biggest takeaway from all of this. For all the talk of punches and kicks, the #1 goal of this program isn't to teach a kid how to win a fight. It's about giving them the awareness, the confidence, and the skills to avoid a fight from ever even starting. The physical stuff, that's the absolute last resort.
So that leaves us with one final thought. A final question, really. This curriculum makes a pretty bold argument that for a kid, the most powerful self-defense tool isn't a punch or a kick, it's a smart decision. Makes you think, right?